This is a Triple J podcast.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Science with Dr. Karl, where before today's episode, Conchetta and Luca and Jack James from our breakfast team brought forward a story about how we could potentially breathe through our butts. Sorry, I had to put that one to Dr. Karl, who this week beamed into the show via New York, the Big Apple, still making it happen. For our Thursday, it was his Wednesday night, and he was still up late answering our science questions. So, let's do it. We are doing Science with Dr. Karl as we always do on a Thursday. However, Dr. Karl, you are in New York. What is the time where you are?
It's 8 o'clock at night, and I love New York because it's a mixture of Berlin and Paris and its own thing. So Paris is always the same, they say, and Berlin is never the same, and New York is both always the same and never the same. And you walk around, you see all these skyscrapers. Oh man, it's just gorgeous. And I'm here with my little grandson and my daughter, and I'm just not answering email and just pretending to be a parent flat out for the next 4 days.
Yeah, I love that you're not answering email. You have kind of taken a break this week, but you still wanted to jump on for Science with Dr. Karl and answer questions.
Oh, because this is my life. This is running through my very blood.
Yeah. So tell us, how has your week been? Have you seen anything crazy? Have you eaten anything really nice?
Well, it was amazing. I went to these lectures in London last week, and it really revolutionised my thinking about social media and its effect upon the current generation with regard to depression. And it was really interesting because the standard thing is, the social media makes everybody depressed, and there's this curve, like the shape of a U, that has been around for about a century, which has changed. And what it used to show for most of the last century or so was that people, when they were kids, were really happy. Then in their early 20s, they got a bit unhappy, and there's a bit of a bottom in the U. Then they got happy again. And for the last 15 years, mate, they've started off unhappy when they're kids, and they just gradually get happier. But what stops them from being happy? And the excuse has always been social media. But if you look at it more carefully, according to this lecture I went to, which could be wrong, after Facebook came in 2003, depression went down. And the current thinking is that a lot of people actually thrive in social media, and a few people actually get made depressed by it. And it seems to be that if things are tough in your life anyway, for some people, the social media can make things worse. Other people can make things better. And it seems like there's something else causing this unhappiness. Maybe it's the, dare I say, cost of living crisis, and people can't live in the city where they have to work to earn money, stuff like that. We don't know.
Very interesting. And, that notion of self-comparison on social media, but then also finding community on there for people. Again, like that you're in New York, but you're still going to lectures. Oh, well, that was in London last week, wasn't it?
Yeah. I gave 3 talks, one at the Royal Institution, one at the New Scientist, and one at Nature, teaching them how to give presentations.
And now you're here answering our questions. So Dr. Karl is joining you at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday night in New York. So he's putting himself out there. He is really committed to this. So I want you to bring that energy on 0439 757 555. Send in your questions. We're going to kick off with Pippa in the Southern Highlands. Pippa, what's your question?
Hey, doctors. I have a quick 2-part. Firstly, why does helium change our voices? And a quick hypothetical, could we ever take in enough to make ourselves float?
No, you can't take in enough to make yourself float. And secondly, your vocal cords are still generating sounds at the same frequency. But helium is a very light gas. It has a molecular weight of around 4 grams per mole versus nitrogen and oxygen around 30 grams. And because it's lighter, sound travels through it faster. And so the vocal tract that you've still got produces a higher frequency for the resonant modes, and this makes your voice sound higher. If you want to chase it up further, Joe Wolfe, W-O-L-F-E, at the University of New South Wales, has written a really good tract on this. However, I should give, I'm sorry, Lucy, it's time for a PSA. Every year, people die around Christmas time from kids in swimming pools from trying to hold their breath as long as possible. And I nearly died live on TV from breathing helium. Live. I nearly died. And what I'd done was I wanted to demonstrate when I was a TV weatherman, this whole thing that helium made your voice a higher pitch. And so I got it kind of wrong, and I thought I could saturate my tissues with helium. So I did a lot of this. I had a bottle of helium gas, and I just breathed it in really fast, in and out for a few minutes. And what I was doing was blowing off all my carbon dioxide. Now, the reason that you breathe, that you have your next breath, is not because you're low in oxygen, but because you're high in carbon dioxide. And so I didn't feel any desire, really, to breathe. And so I saturated myself. I did this helium thing for about 2 minutes. And then the camera swung onto me on when I was doing this TV weatherman thing. And I explained what was going on. And then as the camera swung off me and then went to the home base after about 50 seconds, I felt myself falling to the floor. And at the same time, I lost my peripheral vision. And I was just closing down into tunnel vision, and I was lying on the floor, and I thought, what the hell is going on? I fell with a bit of a thump, and the camera driver turned around and put their finger on their lips as though to say, stop making noise in the studio. And so I'm lying on the floor, and I thought, what's going on? And I thought, I know what's happening. I'm dying. I'm dying. Why am I dying? Because I'm not breathing. And why am I not breathing? Because I've blown off all my carbon dioxide. And so I did this sort of, I forced myself to take a breath. I had no desire to take a breath. And I forced myself to take a breath. And then suddenly, bingo, I had colour vision back and wall to wall. And I'm lying on the ground going, puffer, 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 puffer. And the camera people turned around and said, stop making a noise. And so what happens each year in Australia is that some kids in the swimming pool at home will sort of hyperventilate, blow off their carbon dioxide, and then dive underneath the pool and stay there as long as they can. And on average, about one dies every year. So this has been our public service announcement for the day, which means we'll save a life. It's not depressing, it's happy. We've saved a life this Christmas. We've done good.
Thanks for your question, Pippa. We got Paul in Berkeley Vale. Paul, what do you want to know?
G'day, Dr. Karl.
Dr. Paul, welcome.
Got a quick question for you. Why is the re-entry from space such a critical calculation?
Yeah, after all, what happens with the Starship and the SpaceX rockets, they accelerate up to a couple of thousand kilometres per hour, and then that's the second stage, not the Starship, but the booster, that's the second stage, and they got up to a couple of thousand kilometres and maybe 40 kilometres up, and then they come back down, and there's a bit of fuel left over, and they fire the rockets, and then they slow down and land on the jet pad, on their launch pad. So why can't they do that coming from space? Because they've got a whole lot more energy. They're not just doing half a kilometre a second. They're doing 7 kilometres a second, 28,000 kilometres an hour. And so if they wanted to scrub off all that velocity, they'd have to carry just as much fuel as it took them to get there. And when they're coming in at temperatures hotter. They're moving through the air so fast, they've got a pressure built up in front of them, they're creating temperatures hotter than the melting point of any metal that the human race knows about. So they have various materials like ablative materials where the upper layer goes away, it just gets carried away by the super fast hot wind, or they have insulating tiles. So, and if they get any bumpiness, then you can get hot spots which can burn through the spacecraft. And that's what happened to the Columbia when some of the tiles came off. So doing a return to landing to the launch pad from 40 kilometres and 1,000 kilometres an hour, that's easy. But 28,000 kilometres per hour and 400 kilometres up, that's just a whole different ballpark. Does that kind of answer your question, Paul? Have I left something out?
No, that pretty well covers it.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Chris from Capalaba, what is your question?
Hey, I've got a question that is, if hydrogen is flammable and oxygen is flammable, why is water not flammable?
Okay. So suppose you've got a sheet of paper, right? And it's quite flammable. You got the mental impression of a sheet of paper?
Yep.
And then it's surrounded by oxygen. So then you light it, and then what happens is you get off heat and carbon dioxide and some ashes.
Yep.
Now, those ashes have already been burnt. The energy has been extracted. You can't burn them again. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that makes sense, yep.
In the same way, when you get hydrogen and oxygen and you burn them, you get heat, and you don't get carbon dioxide, you get liquid water. And even though it's a liquid, it counts as the ashes of combustion. It's already been burnt. It's gone from the higher energy state of naked hydrogen and naked oxygen into the lower energy state of H2O. And then if you shove energy into it, you can reverse it. So if you've just got a tank of water and you put in 2 platinum electrodes and kick to a car battery, you'll get little bubbles of hydrogen and oxygen coming off. So the reason you can't burn water is that it's already been burnt.
It's already burnt. Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Even though it's wet, it hurts my head. You see, it is the ashes of combustion, but it's also wet. I know it's wrong. Don't blame me. Blame nature. Blame chemistry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Jonathan in Melbourne. Jonathan, what's your question?
Hi, Karl. I've got a question about 3i Atlas, the object flying through our solar system at the moment. There's a lot of disinformation and a lot of speculation about what's going on. I just want facts from you and maybe your opinion and your speculation as to what it is.
Okay, so the thing to realise is that it is a comet and that it's coming in very fast. And so so definitely, it is not married to our sun. It's from some other sun, somewhere else. Second thing, in our galaxy, there's about 7,000 places called stellar nurseries where stars are born. And this was obviously born in another stellar nursery because it's coming in way too fast to be married to our sun. So there's a guy called Avi Loeb, Loeb, who is an actual professor of astronomy at one of the best universities in the world called Harvard. And he's sort of got a bee in his bonnet about aliens. He's kind of like your uncle at the parties who, no matter what you say, will disagree with you. You know, like if you say, oh, seatbelts are good, he'll say, I knew somebody who was in a car accident and they got thrown out of their car because they weren't wearing a seatbelt and they landed on a convenient bay of hail and the car caught on fire and everybody else died. He's that kind of guy, right? So firstly, he said, we've had 2 other objects coming in from outer space, from interstellar. They were called 1i and 2i. This is 3i. And he said, it's not like them. Mate, if you've got a sample size of 3, of course you're going to get a lot of variability. It's like walking the streets of your local city and saying, I see this person called an adult human male, and I see another one called an adult human female, and then there's this other one that's really short. Obviously, it's not a human. No, it's just a child that hasn't grown up yet. So the first reason that he says that it's an alien thing is because it is not the same as the 2 previous ones that came in. Okay? That's crazy. The second one, he said, it's not having a proper tail that will let us analyse the gases, and that was because it was a bit far out, and when it got closer, it had a tail and we could analyse the gases. And then thirdly, he said, well, the gases are different from what we get in our solar system. Well, of course they are, because it grew up in a different stellar nursery with different sorts of food supply. And he keeps on clutching his straws, and then he said, but has it done anything so far that makes it look different from a comet? He says, well, not yet, and then the next thing is that when it goes behind the sun, it's going to do a thing called an O-berth burn, O-B-E-R-T-H, and then when it's hidden from us behind the sun, and that proves that it's alien because it's going to do it behind the sun, it will do something different. And so he's clutching his straws. Oh, yeah, the other thing is, with regard to all the planets, it's coming in on the same plane. Let me explain. So imagine the sun is spinning, which it is, and it's got an equator, and all the planets are roughly lined up with that. And it could be coming in anywhere from dead parallel to the plane of the planets to 90 degrees above. It's about 10 degrees off.
Right.
Therefore, it's from the aliens.
Because of his trajectory.
Yeah, he's clutching his straws.
Yeah. How long is it going to take before we'll be out of view again?
Its point of closest approach will be in mid-December, and we will see some stuff there. It'll be interesting.
So we're gonna stay in space. Lockie in Ballarat, what's your question?
G'day, Dr. Karl. Just wondering, with weight and stuff, so if you're lifting weight in space, obviously it's lighter, but if you also lift weight in water, it's also lighter. But then when you lift it on land, it's heavy, even though they've all got different densities. So why is that?
Because of Archimedes, who lived in Sicily, and while he had a job from the king, trying to work out whether the crown was made of gold or lead, he came up with these words. Now listen carefully. Any object, whether it's totally or partially immersed in a liquid, is buoyed up by a force equal to the weight of the liquid displaced. So suppose you've got a 10 kilogram weight, and then you put in a bathtub full of water and out flows 1 kilogram of water. It now weighs 9 kilograms. So look up Archimedes' principle in Wikipedia, and so that's why it weighs less if you're doing it. Have you been trying to pump weights in water?
Oh, yeah. Nah, not really me, but I've just noticed, when you pick people up in the water, like you can do it, but then on land, I've got no hope.
That's right. So you can have this huge tree trunk, and you can push it any way you want, but on land, you've got nothing. That's because 90% of its weight or 95% has been taken away by the water buoying it up, thanks to Archimedes back in 250 BC or something like that. He was a genius.
All right. Thanks, Lockie.
Awesome. Thank you.
Lucas on the Sunshine Coast, what's your question?
Hey, my question is, I tend to get eaten alive by mosquitoes and midges. However, my partner doesn't. I was just wondering, is that something to do with my diet or the environment that I'm in, or what do you guys reckon?
Overwhelmingly is because you give off carbon dioxide. So when the insect scientists want to gather some mosquitoes, they go out into the field with some dry ice, which is very cold and it looks white, and you put it in a bucket, and as it warms up, it doesn't go into liquid, it just goes straight into the gas. And the gas is carbon dioxide, and the mosquitoes come from everywhere. So on one hand, because you as a male are on average heavier than a female, you'll give off more carbon dioxide. But the main factor is all these other chemicals which got really fancy names like butanediol, and there's all sorts of other names, which some people put out more of and some people don't. And the only way I can really see around it is either genetic engineering of that person or the old-fashioned put on the DEET, which seems to be relatively harmless. So if you're the one who gets attacked by the mozzies, mate, it's just because you're putting out that chemical. It's just the luck of the genetic draw. Blame your parents. I'm sorry.
I'm the same, Lucas. Get eaten alive. We've got Gabriella in Meanjin, Brisbane. Gabriella, you're having a bit of a debate with your roommates. What's going on?
Hey, yeah, I'm wondering, we have some plovers swooping us at the moment, in particular, actually some of our cars, and I was wondering if they hit the front windscreen with their beak while we're going around 60 kilometres an hour, if there's a possibility the beak could actually come through the windscreen.
Wow.
Whoa. Possible but unlikely. So that's because of an accident that happened in the early 1800s, because early 1900s. In the early 1900s, what they had was just ordinary glass on car windscreens. Anytime there was any sort of mishap, people would get damaged by the glass. Roll over into Paris. And what had happened was that a chemist came into his laboratory on a Monday morning and accidentally knocked over a beaker, and it fell on the hard concrete floor, and it didn't break. He thought, what? And what had happened was that the staff who were supposed to come in on the Friday night or Saturday and wash all the beakers, they didn't do it on this particular beaker. And he went backwards and he worked out that he had some sort of organic liquids that he combined this and that, and there was a very thin, perfectly transparent film on the glass. So what you have on windscreen glass today is glass that's been tempered. So they do things like heat it up and then cool it down. They take it through a whole weird regime that makes it tougher. And then they have several layers. And in between each layer is this special plastic so that even if it does break, firstly, it'll break into little tiny rectangles, maybe 3 millimetres on a side, 4 millimetres, like little particles, and then it'll be held together by this little plastic film. It is possible that the bird, if it was coming at high speed, could find one part of the windscreen which was, the resonance was such that it could break it, but almost certainly what it would do would be just to shatter the glass and hold it together. It wouldn't actually come through. You'd have to be going fairly fast for it to come through.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, Gabriella, have you lost the debate or won the debate now with your housemates?
Oh, they were adamant that it was a no, it wouldn't happen. So technically I haven't lost.
Look, I've got to say, Gabrielle, don't trust me because I'm not a material scientist, right? You'd need to speak with a material scientist from windscreen manufacturing company. I don't think we make them anymore in Australia, but if there is a material scientist, ring 04 something 757 555.
Yes.
0439.
Yes.
Oh,
but don't ring. Make sure you text in. Make sure you text in.
Yeah, because we've got money on this. We don't want Gabrielle to wrongly lose a debate. I'm not an expert in this field. I'm only a generalist. Please ring in expert.
Thanks for your question, Gabriella.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear from you as well right now. If you are currently in a debate with your housemates, with your work colleagues about some sort of scientific phenomena or just something that you've noticed, text in. We want to put some of these to rest. Amy on the Central Coast, what's your question?
Hey, my question is, scientifically speaking, if herd immunity with the COVID vaccine was successful, would COVID in 2025 not exist or be eradicated?
Probably yes, no, maybe. Let me just think about it. So you've got the disease called measles, which is a nasty disease. It kills people. A reasonable percentage of people end up in hospital. And when you get it, you lose the memory of everything you've been exposed to in terms of vaccines or previous infections. And we have some vaccines that are really good. And if you have your 2 shots of the measles vaccine, mate, you're pretty well protected for life. Then we have another disease called whooping cough, where we just haven't managed to make as good a vaccine. And so we counted on herd immunity. And once the herd immunity gets below a certain point, then you get infections. And then we had the disease called COVID, caused by a coronavirus. And the trouble is it keeps on mutating. So while with the measles and whooping cough, it didn't mutate much. But the trouble is with the COVID virus, the virus that causes COVID, it's mutating all the time. So you've got to keep the vaccinations up. And in fact, I was talking to a friend of mine. I've been in contact with a few of my friends overseas, and 2 of them have been up to date with their vaccines, and they got the virus and it really knocked them around. So it does seem, if we've got a virologist, please ring in. I'm not an expert in this field, but it does seem that you need to get the vaccines to maintain immunity. But in this particular case, also remember that the older people are more likely to suffer rather than younger people, unlike flu, where you have 2 little jumps, one in the younger people and one in the older people in mortality. So you can kind of get away with it if you're a younger person, but on the other hand, you could carry it and then pass on to an older person and kill them. So is that kind of answering your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Okay, thank
Amy.
you.
We've got this question now from Susie in Barara Heights. Susie, what do you want to know?
Hi, I was just looking at my outdoor lights the other night and noticed all the insects and moths hovering around it. And I remember the phrase, like a moth to a burning flame. And I wondered why that is, if it makes them more likely to be seen by predators, why they go to the light.
Dr. Karl.
The standard explanation is that they've evolved in an environment where at night they would navigate via the stars and the moon, and the moon would be, say, on the right, and they'd fly 0.5 kilometre forward and the moon would still be on the right. But down at ground level, if they want to keep the moon on the right, if they go forward and they're fairly close to a light, and they go forward a few metres, then suddenly they're going if they go in a straight line, the moon is not on their right, it's a bit behind them. So they swing around to describe a circle around the flame, the light. That's the current explanation. There's another one involving them, something about flying upside down. I can't remember what that is. If somebody can remember, please ring in with that explanation. But that's the current explanation. Is that kind of helping?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, but it just makes them more likely to get eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
there was a
exposing
case
them.
there was a few years ago when Canberra got invaded by boggon moths, which go from the border of Queensland through New South Wales and down into the Alps in Victoria. And on their way, the winds just sort of pushed them off to one side, and they just end up dying in vast quantities in Canberra because they were attracted by the lights.
Damn. Susie,
Poor
thanks
moths.
for your question.
Yeah.
Poor
Thanks,
moths.
guys.
Hey, Isaac in Orange, what's your question?
Hey doctors, I was just wondering, got a question. What would happen if all the atoms in the universe, if they all lost an electron, and adversely, what would happen if they gained an electron?
Okay, can you just explain this for the audience? So the electron's not going from somewhere to another atom. It's just somehow magically you have, by your Darth Vader powers, said, I decree that every atom in the universe shall lose an electron.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And then gain an electron, right?
Or adversely, if that thing happened, but they gained an electron as well.
Okay, we're kind of looking firstly at chemical chaos. The standard chemical bonds, and there's like ionic ones which are charged, and there's things called covalent bonds and metallic bonds. They rely on balanced electron sharing. So wherever you've got regular atoms, you'd end up with a really messy state, and the atoms would possibly come apart and no longer join onto each other. Now, it turns out that only about 5% of the atoms in the universe exist as atoms that we know of here on Earth. 95% are in stars. There is plasma. The electrons have already been ripped off, and now you're going to rip off one other electric. You've got to make it vanish for each of the multitudes of atoms. Well, they're going to lose an extra electron. And so suddenly you're going to have, besides chemical chaos on planets like where we are, with the atoms that just separate from each other, I'm guessing, you'd have electromagnetic chaos. And then in the stars, man, they really need their overall plasma neutrality, which governs how radiation is transported. This whole field of plasma is big. And once again, it would be a chaotic thing. I'm not enough of an expert to say what would happen, but I'm guessing it'd be very messy. We really need a physicist who specialises in plasma physics to tell us what would happen, because they would know backwards what happens. But it would be very messy. Apparently it's not supposed to happen because there's conservation of charge and it's not allowed to happen. But if it did happen by some sort of Darth Vader power, it would be... Messy is not a very scientific word, I'm sorry. But that's what
I'm guessing we won't be around anymore to witness it anyway.
We wouldn't be... I think it would mean that life as we know it would come to an end.
Thanks, Isaac. Tom in Melbourne, what's your question?
Dr. Tom,
Hi,
welcome.
Dr. Karl. I hope you are enjoying New York. I have a question about the end of the universe.
Hooray!
So the universe after the Big Bang had a slow expansion, and then there was some beliefs that there was a rapid accelerating expansion, maybe due to dark energy. I want to know that as black holes are increasing in size and volume, whether or not they are going to suck all the energy out of the universe and then end up collapsing the universe, or if you had another theory about how the universe might end.
The three theories with regard to the expansion of the universe were that it would expand but then gradually slow down and then actually reverse and then go back into the Big Bang. We call that the Big Crunch. Or the other one was it would gradually slow down and stay at a certain fixed size. Or the third one is that it would keep on expanding, and we're pretty well sure today, thanks to the discovery of dark energy, that it will keep on expanding. Now, we're looking here further down the line at a cold, dark universe. But the black holes don't necessarily suck everything in. You can have things orbiting black holes. If our sun were suddenly to be turned into a black hole, the Earth would keep on orbiting and there would be no change apart from the fact we'd no longer get any electromagnetic radiation. That electromagnetic radiation is, for each square metre, on just underneath the sun directly above, is about 1,000 watts, about half of it heat and half of it light. And so if our sun got turned into a black hole, we'd keep on orbiting it, but suddenly there'd be no light and no heat, and the Earth would cool down and keep on cooling down. So the fact that a black hole has an intense gravitational field that rises very quickly as you get close to it doesn't mean that it sucks everything in. There's a whole bunch of stars in the middle of our galaxy orbiting the big black hole there, and they've been doing it for thousands, if not millions of years. So you can orbit a black hole and not be sucked in. It's not automatic that you'll get sucked into a black hole. Is that kind of helping?
Okay, so the universe will never end.
Well, we don't know, but we're kind of thinking a long-term, cold, dark death. But there's so many things we don't know about the universe. This is with our limited knowledge as of either the 22nd or the 23rd of October, depending on where of planet Earth you are in the year 2025. So we could get further knowledge that would change that, but at the moment the current thinking is we're heading for a cold, dark universe.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, Tom.
I'm sorry, this has not been a PSA.
Now, Karl, earlier on today, Jack James, our Triple J news reporter, brought a story to Conchetta and Luca on breakfast.
There's scientists who are looking into breathing through your butt. They put like liquid up some people's butts.
And there was bubbles.
Yeah, and they hoped it would oxygen. I can't believe I'm going Dr. Karl mode here, but like oxygenate or whatever. And then it means like it's a way that people could be getting oxygen if they can't get it through their lungs and stuff. It's early days, but we're talking butt breathing and we'd love you to ask Dr. Karl about it.
Dr. Karl, what is this story? Could we potentially be breathing through our butts one day?
In emergencies, yes. So most of your gut, it's about 10 metres long. For most of your gut, the stuff inside doesn't go straight into your bloodstream. So you eat some fat, protein, carbohydrate. It goes into the liver first. But the last 5-10 centimetres of the back end of your gut, down the butt, the bum, the anus, whatever, that back end, it goes straight into the regular blood supply. And so firstly, that's why parents who might have a baby who is vomiting and having a fever will put Panadol or aspirin up the back end, because it gets absorbed straight into the back end, into the bloodstream with no delay, and that's called a Panadol suppository. Secondly, when I was at the kids' hospital, we had an emergency when a kid came in and it was maybe like 4 weeks old, and it was having these terrible fits. And we just wanted to stop it from having fits. And somebody came up with the idea of, let's just crack open an ampoule of Valium, shove it into a syringe without a needle, and then just squirt up the kid's bum. And it worked. So this could work. In the first process, what they've done is added more and more of this liquid that carries a lot of oxygen without oxygen. And they've managed to get up to 1.5 litres. Oh my God, that's a lot. And they were able to survive, and the volunteers had no major effects. We're talking about something you would do in an emergency. So now that we know that we can do it with 1.5 litres, and this liquid is called perfluoro something, it carries a huge amount of oxygen. It can carry a huge amount of oxygen. They've done the first stage of testing it without the oxygenated version. Next stage, they're now going to try it with the oxygenated version and see how much it lifts up their oxygen level. So we're talking about something that's used in a life and death situation.
Interesting. Would you ever do it?
Early days. If it's a matter of dying or not, I'd go for not dying. Don't die, don't die, don't die. Live.
Yeah.
Living's better.
Go check out this research online now. Jack James talking about it on the news this morning on Triple J Breakfast with Luca and Conchetta. Let's go to your question, Mark. You've got a question about, I guess, how we drink water. Talk us through it.
Yeah, okay, so cool. I was thinking about animals, fish, mammals in the ocean that process salt water into their bodies because they obviously can't or probably can't as per my knowledge, takes salt water in completely. So the process they do to desalinate the water, is there some sort of biomechanical research or way that they're able to do that to take out the energy cost of desalination for like a use on land kind of thing? Like, of course, to harness that fresh water from the ocean, is the energy cost is so huge, but with the advances in growing organs, growing tissues and all that kind of stuff, is there some way that we might be able to biomechanical engineer a desalination way that doesn't require energy?
You're dead right. It's a wonderful point of view you've come up with. So firstly, as you say, to desalinate salt water, we use reverse osmosis, which is basically just shoving the seawater at incredibly high pressure through a membrane that's got holes that are small enough to let the water through, but not the sodium and the chlorine. Huge amount of energy. Then there's where you just heat it. You boil it, the steam comes off, minus the salt. It works, incredible amount of energy. Now, the dolphin is nice. Dolphins drink some seawater, but they've got special kidneys to filter out the salt. And so we humans have come up with things called organoids, organoids, which is, we've made organoids of brain cells and taught them how to play the game called Pong. And so we could get organoids of kidney cells, and you put salt water in one side and you feed them sugar to keep them happy, the kidney cells, and out the other side comes salt. That's a brilliant suggestion. I love it. I want somebody to do it.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, look, I'm thinking patent that stuff right now. All good. No, I
Build the
appreciate that.
prototype.
Thanks.
Hold on to that
thank
one,
you so
Mark.
Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Karl, thank you so much for joining us from New York in the midst of your break. We really appreciate you taking the time, no days off with you, I feel. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And I just saw the Empire State Building again. I'm going to try and find the Chrysler Building. I love that building. It is so cute.
Oh, well, we'll catch you next week and you can tell us all about your New York adventures. Dr. Karl, enjoy New York.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
So much
Peace,
fun.
love, mung beans, man.
And that's it. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Science with Dr. Karl. And I would love for you to interact with it in some way that shows that you liked it, whatever platform that may be. Review, rating, liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, boosting that goddamn engagement so more people see us in their feeds. We want Dr. Karl to go global, Mr. Worldwide, if you will. I'm Lucy Smith. This episode was produced by Josh Brennan, and we'll catch you next week. See ya.
Dave Marchese here from the Triple J Hack team. Hey, if you love Dr. Karl's podcast like I do, you might enjoy the Hack podcast as well. Each day we bring you the news that matters to you, from the latest science on climate change to what's happening in politics and news around the world. The Hack podcast. It's your daily fix of the news you need to know. Get it wherever you're listening now.